Welcome to the world of China's story tales. Dare to follow us into the night, where desire and danger entwine. In my previous life, I was a formidable lawyer, my name known across the field. Yet when the cycle of rebirth came, perhaps Lady Meng forgot a crucial ingredient, because my memories of that life remained intact, as vivid as ever. While other 3-year-olds were still playing in the dirt, I was clinging tightly to my adoptive father's leg, sniffling as I insisted he immediately buy accident insurance. When children my age began their rebellious phase, I dragged the entire family to a notary office to sign over a dozen documents concerning assets and rights, all to ensure that the small attic named after Koi would forever be registered under my name, beyond anyone's reach. For 18 years, my life was calm, orderly, free, untouched by interference, until the day one of Beijing's most powerful elite families appeared at my door. They claimed I was their biological daughter, lost for many years. As for the so-called heiress, she was nestled in a noble lady's arms, eyes shimmering with tears, a sight enough to soften anyone's heart. The first thing they did after taking me back was toss a severance agreement onto the table. Sign it. Take 5 million. From now on, don't think about things that never belong to you. She stood beside them, gently wiping her tears, her voice trembling. Sister, I'm sorry. Mom and Dad only want to protect me. Under their condescending, self-satisfied gazes, I calmly took out a voice recorder and a prepared lawsuit. I agree to sever ties, I said evenly, as if discussing the weather. But before that, we need to calculate the cost clearly. 18 years of upbringing, emotional damages, and compensation for allowing someone else to assume my lawful identity. Roughly 800 million. I placed the lawsuit on the table. I've also filed for a temporary freeze on all group assets. Until this case ends, not a single cent can be moved. This is the final mediation. Are you sure you want to give it up? I leaned back, a faint smile at my lips, slowly scanning the 4 people opposite me, including the brother who had fallen from the sky, Jiang, whose eyes looked as if he wanted to tear my words apart. The first to speak was Liu Xian, the Jiang family's top legal consultant, a man who wielded influence throughout the capital. Adjusting his gold-rimmed glasses, he spoke politely, though disdain seeped through. Miss Jiang, Chairman Zhang Yan is acting in good faith. We're willing to raise the compensation to 50 million and gift a villa in the southern district to your adoptive mother. This is our utmost sincerity. As long as you withdraw the case and publicly state it was all a misunderstanding. I laughed softly, the sound plunging the room into silence. Liu Xian, how long have you practiced law? He paused before replying. 30 years. Then you should know Article 261 of the Criminal Code, abandonment of minors. I straightened, my gaze sweeping over faces turning pale. If abandonment leads to severe consequences, endangering health or life, the sentence starts at 5 years. That night, when I was left in a trash bin at -5 degrees. If my adoptive parents hadn't found me in time, I would have faced fatal hypothermia within 24 hours. Do you consider that serious enough? Lawyer Liu? His expression changed instantly. Zhang Yan, the head of the family and my biological father in name, finally spoke. You're threatening me. This isn't a threat. I played the first recording. Just sign it, and this 5 million is yours. Don't think too far ahead. I paused the audio. That was my biological mother. Betra, clear evidence that you attempted to buy off blood relations with money, inflicting secondary emotional harm. I gestured to my assistant, who handed over a thick stack of documents. Based on Jiang Group's financial reports over 18 years, I calculated your household's average income. Legally, the support you owe equals the total living, education, and medical costs enjoyed by Chu Win Tan during the period she replaced me, plus compensation for emotional damage and identity theft. 800 million is already a discounted figure. Oh, and this is the court's asset freeze order. Zhang Yan's face darkened. Chu Win Tan cried uncontrollably. Why are you doing this? We're family. I glanced at her coldly. You occupied someone else's identity for 18 years and gained unlawful benefits. You'll soon receive my second lawsuit. She stared at me in disbelief, calling me insane. Jiang Chen slammed the table, pointing at me. How could the Jiang family produce someone so cold-blooded? Suing your own parents for money. I looked at him calmly. You're wrong. I'm not suing for money. I'm teaching you what the law is. Later, Zhang Yan demanded a private talk. Lu Xian tried to regain control. Miss Zhang, leave yourself a way out. You're young. There's no need to be this ruthless. I ignored him and looked straight at Bui Tra, the woman who had maintained her elegance well. 18 years ago today, you gave birth to me in that hospital. You enjoyed motherhood, while I lay waiting to be disposed of. I continued evenly, contrasting my life of second-hand clothes and collecting bottles with Chu Wintan's princess dresses in elite schools. Do you plan to use tears to repay those 18 years? She sobbed, saying she didn't know. I laughed. You didn't look for me out of guilt, but because of Chu Wintan's marriage. I tossed down photos, her beside a wealthy heir, and his medical report showing a rare hereditary condition. The Lu family needs a healthy daughter-in-law. She failed the exam, so you remembered me, the backup plan. Silence followed. The Jiang family soon counterattacked. Overnight, social media flooded with attacks painting me as greedy, ungrateful, a poor girl suing her parents for money. Photos contrasted my faded uniform eating noodles on the sidewalk with Chu Wintan in haute couture at charity galas. Public outrage ignited. Soon she appeared in an exclusive interview. Eyes red, voice fragile. I don't blame my sister. She's suffered too much outside. Money and status, I don't need them. I just hope she'll come back so our family can be together again. Her performance moved the masses. The hashtag Chu Wintan Fairy Sister shot to #1. My phone nearly crashed from the flood of abuse and accusations. In front of my adoptive parents' house, someone splashed red paint everywhere and scrawled vicious words telling us to leave the city. My adoptive mother was so furious her blood pressure spiked, she collapsed into bed. Unable to get up, my adoptive father said nothing, quietly wiping the paint off the door panel by panel, veins bulging on the back of his hands. The Jiang family's media strike was fast and ruthless. They believed that once they turned me into the target of public hatred, I would kneel. Jiang Chen called, his voice thick with glee. Shen Nian Nian. See? This is what happens when you go against the Jiang family. You'd better withdraw the lawsuit and apologize. Otherwise, I guarantee you and your poor adoptive parents will never hold your heads up again. I listened to his shouting calmly. Really? Then let's wait and see. I hung up and dialed another number. Hello, Yi Sichao. This is Shen Nian Nian. Yes, I want to hold a press conference. Right in front of Jiang Group headquarters. 10 o'clock. No, tomorrow morning. I'll give them a gift no one expects. The Jiang family clearly heard the news. They probably thought I was going there to beg. What a pity, they were gravely mistaken. The square outside Jiang Group was packed with reporters of every kind. Jiang Yan even sent the company's security team to protect his innocent biological daughter. I stood on the temporary podium, facing a sea of flashing lenses, then glanced at the floor-to-ceiling windows of the building where vague silhouettes moved behind the glass. I knew they were watching me embarrass myself. Or so they thought. Everyone was curious why I demanded 800 million in compensation. I didn't circle around it. Because what they owe me isn't just 18 years of support. I said, it's a life. The screen behind me lit up, not with childhood photos, not with Jiang family portraits, but with an old police report, yellowed by time. 18 years ago, at City He People's Hospital #1, a newborn girl went missing 3 hours after birth. The report was filed by the nurse on duty. After investigation, the police found a baby girl, frozen and near death, in a trash container behind the hospital. That child was me. The crowd erupted when my biological mother, Bui Tra, learned that the baby was missing. She did not report it. Instead, she completed discharge procedures together with another woman, the biological mother of Chu Wintan, and took someone else's child home. The next piece of evidence appeared, a discharge form signed by Bui Tra. What did that mean? That this was never a simple mistake, but a planned exchange and abandonment. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Behind the glass of Jiang group, movement turned chaotic. I knew some would say it was all the other woman's fault. That my biological parents were victims too. Then please look at the next evidence. The screen showed Chu Wintan's hospital record at age 5, an emergency appendectomy requiring transfusion. Her blood type was clearly listed. Jiang Yan and Bui Tra have blood types that, by Mendelian inheritance, could not produce a child of that type, which meant that at the latest, 8 years ago, the Jiang family already knew Chu Wintan was not their biological child. The square exploded. And what did they do? I raised my voice. The question held back for 18 years. Nothing. They didn't report it. They didn't look for me. They chose to hide the truth and enjoy the family bond that should have been mine. While I grew up in a remote county like a weed, I looked straight into the cameras. This is no longer a civil dispute. This is a prolonged, intentional abandonment lasting 18 years. Today I stand here not to ask for money, but as a victim. I formally report this case and request criminal investigation into Jiang Yan and Bui Tra. As my words ended, 2 uniformed officers stepped out of the crowd and walked straight toward the Jiang building. Every camera swung toward the glass facade. I saw Bui Tra collapse, Jiang Chen rushing to support her, and Jiang Yan standing frozen. Even at that distance, I could feel the venom in his gaze. I met it calmly. From this moment on, the nature of this battle had changed. It was no longer about money, but about crime versus justice. I, Shen Nian Nian, once a guardian of law in another life, now its executor, formally declared war. The involvement of law enforcement shook the city's upper circles like a depth charge. Jiang Group's stock plunged. Within an hour, public opinion flipped. Those who had cursed me turned around, shouting support for justice and condemning irresponsible parents. The Jiang family became a public target. Jiang Yan and Bui Tra were summoned for investigation, though lawyers soon secured their release. The so-called dignity of the elite was shattered. I returned to my adoptive parents' home. The red paint was gone. My adoptive mother's condition had stabilized. She held my hand, eyes red. Nian Nian, you've suffered so much. I shook my head, placing a peeled orange segment into her palm. Mom, no one will dare bully us again. My adoptive father sighed while watching the news on TV. You've made it this big, what will you do next? He wasn't wrong, there was no retreat left between me and the Jiang family. Dad, didn't you become a police officer to catch bad people? I smiled softly. I'm doing the same thing, just in a courtroom. A few days later, Jiang Chen asked to meet. The tea house was quiet, hidden in a narrow alley. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. None of his former arrogance left. What do you really want? He asked hoarsely. I already said it at the press conference, criminal accountability. He sneered. You're dreaming. Do you know what that means? The Jiang family will be finished. That's the price you pay. I lifted my teacup, blowing gently on the steam. My mother is ill. His gaze darkened. Since being questioned, she had locked herself in her room. Not eating, not seeing anyone. Acute depression, the doctor said. He looked up, pleading. For the sake of her giving birth to you, let it go. Withdraw the criminal charge. We'll pay the 800 million. Every cent. I set the cup down and looked at him. Jiang Chen, do you think family can be priced? He froze. If it could, I'd gladly trade that money for not being abandoned. For a normal childhood. But I can't. So what I want now is fairness. He grew agitated. So your fairness is destroying all of us? If restoring the truth causes your collapse, I said calmly, standing up, then your foundation was rotten to begin with. There's nothing more to say. He called after me through clenched teeth, warning me not to celebrate too soon. That his father wouldn't let it go. I didn't look back. From the moment I picked up the weapon of the law, regret was erased from my dictionary. I knew Jiang Yan wouldn't surrender easily. For someone like him, interests and face justified anything. I just didn't expect his counterattack to be so vicious and unexpected. He mobilized all his connections and money, assembling a top-tier legal team to dismantle my criminal accusation. They focused on intent, arguing that Betrayal suffered postpartum depression and mental confusion, exploited by a caretaker, while Jiang was busy year-round and unaware of any exchange. As for discovering the blood type inconsistency 8 years ago, they claimed there were suspicions but no proof, and that they had searched quietly ever since, with no leads. Their arguments were airtight. They even bribed the nurse from back then to change her testimony, claiming I slipped off a cart and disappeared on my own. A malicious abandonment was painted by them as an accident, a misunderstanding, with no direct evidence. The investigation stalled. The request for criminal prosecution was dismissed. When the news broke, the Jiang family celebrated as if at a festival. Jiang Group's stock began to recover. Jiang Chen called me again, his voice brimming with excitement and undisguised mockery. Shen Nian Nian, I told you, you can't fight the Jiang family. How does it feel now? Like a joke? I didn't respond. On the other end came Jiang Yan's cold, arrogant voice. Out of blood ties, I'll give you one last chance. 5 million. Take the money and disappear. Otherwise, we'll sue you for defamation and extortion. Then you and those 2 police parents of yours can prepare to face consequences together. He hung up arrogantly. I clenched my phone, standing by the window, watching traffic flow endlessly below. Was this defeat? No, this was only the appetizer. In my previous life, I spent 10 years in law climbing from obscurity to the peak. I had seen dirtier tricks than they would see in a lifetime. Jiang thought money could silence everything. He underestimated me, and that contempt would cost him dearly. The secret of a mother. I opened my laptop and accessed a hidden folder containing files my adoptive father, a retired criminal investigator, had obtained through old connections, records sealed for 18 years. The subject was Li Wan, the caretaker and biological mother of Chu Win Tan. Officially, Li Wan vanished after giving birth. But I found a suspicious detail, a bank account, for 5 years after her disappearance. On the same day every month, that account received a steady sum, not huge, not small, from an anonymous sender. Following the trail deeper, I uncovered a secret powerful enough to destroy the Jiang family beyond repair. I called Betrayal. She answered weakly, guarded. What do you want, Madame Bui? Let's meet again, I said softly. I found something you'll want to know, about Li Wan, and about a Swiss account you never disclosed. The line went eerily silent. She agreed. We met again in the same private room at the upscale club. She wore plain clothes, no makeup, looking wilted. What do you know? She asked, despair in her voice. I slid a document toward her, a bank transaction statement. This Swiss account was yours before marriage, correct? Her face drained of color. For 5 years starting 18 years ago, you transferred money monthly from this account to one person, until that person passed away from late-stage liver illness. That person was Li Wan. Her body trembled. She stared at me as if I were a nightmare. How do you know? I finished the sentence for her. You underestimated the information-gathering ability of the daughter of a former criminal investigator and an archivist. I continued calmly. Li Wan didn't initiate the exchange. You did. You sought her out. You paid her. You used your own biological child to exchange for someone else's. No, Betrayal cried, collapsing emotionally. I didn't. I just had severe postpartum depression. I couldn't control myself. I hated the sound of a baby crying. Seeing you made me irritated. I was losing my mind. She covered her face, sobbing. I only wanted her to watch you for a while. Until I recovered. I sent money every month. Told her to take good care of you. I never thought she'd abandon you. So this was the truth. Not a moment of madness. Not an accident, but a selfish mother fleeing responsibility. Pushing her child into an abyss. It was uglier and sadder than anything I imagined. I laughed coldly. You searched for her for years. Yet never once came to see how I was living. Her sobbing stopped. What were you afraid of? Seeing my suffering and feeling guilty? Or Jiang discovering your secret? Enough. The door burst open. Jiang and Jiang Chen stood there, faces rigid. They had clearly arrived earlier and heard everything. Jiang Yan's gaze cut toward Betra like a blade. Filled not with pity but rage and betrayal. Betra, well done, he said icily, stepping forward. You lied to me for 18 years. Swapping my daughter for someone like that. He pointed at her, trembling with fury. You destroyed the Jiang family's dignity. Betra slumped on the sofa. Hollowed out. Jiang Chen stood frozen, eyes darting between his collapsing mother and furious father. Until finally his gaze settled on me, confusion, fear, pain, and something I couldn't name. This family was rotten at its core. I merely peeled back the decay. I've already sent the recording to my lawyer, I said, standing. Chairman Jiang Yan, now let's discuss criminal responsibility again. The Jiang family collapsed completely. Betra's secret detonated like a bomb, shattering the last fragile balance. Jiang Yan was forced to sign a humiliating agreement. He used his connections to reopen a case against Betra on charges related to long-term mistreatment. Based on new evidence. In exchange, I would no longer pursue criminal charges against him for abandonment. A filthy deal. He sacrificed his wife to preserve his own reputation and the Jiang name. I accepted, not because I wanted to send them all to court, but because I wanted them to taste betrayal and abandonment, just as I had. Afterward, Jiang Chen contacted me on his own. We met by the river. The night wind tangled his hair, he looked even more exhausted. Why? He asked painfully. Why take it this far? She's still your mother. I looked at the lights reflecting on the water. When I was 3, my mother worked 3 night shifts in a factory just to buy me a dress. When I had a high fever, she carried me 10 kilometers through the mountains to a clinic. My mother's name is Lu Su Fen. She is not Betra. He fell silent. After a long while, he took out a small, faded charm. This was put on you at birth by grandma. Betra kept it. I looked at it but didn't take it. Is this supposed to move me? He said softly. I just want you to know, maybe she once had you in her heart. I laughed, the smile never reaching my eyes. Jiang Chen. In my previous life as a lawyer, I saw countless parents harm their children in the name of love. That isn't love. It's selfishness and possession. Real love is what my adoptive parents gave me, sharing what little they had. Wanting the best for me. Not handing me off for convenience and easing guilt with money and a trinket. I turned to leave. He called after me, asking if I hated them. I stopped without turning back. No, I said quietly. I just despise you. I thought that was the end between me and the Jiang family. I was wrong. The brother who once protected the false heiress made a choice that shocked everyone. He chose to stand on my side. In a way I never imagined. The civil case officially went to trial. The courtroom was packed. Jiang Yan's side fielded an elite legal team, meticulously prepared. On my side, aside from my assistant, there was only me. I chose to defend myself. I wanted to reclaim justice for 18 stolen years with my own hands. The proceedings unfolded as I predicted. Their lawyers attacked my adoptive parents' modest background, framing my claim of 800 million as greed and extortion, twisting the case into a narrative of a poor adopted child seeking revenge on wealthy parents. Your Honors, I object. I stood, my voice clear and firm. The defense is deliberately confusing the issue. The focus is not how much my adoptive parents gave me, but what my biological parents owed me. They deprived me of everything I was entitled to as a Jiang daughter: elite education, invaluable social connections, and most importantly, a healthy, complete childhood. These are intangible assets, impossible to price. 800 million is merely the minimum compensation calculated from their standard of living. I looked toward the bench. Resolute. This is not support money I'm demanding. It is the life they owe me. The courtroom fell into silence. Jiang Yan's face turned ashen. At that very moment, Jiang Chen, who had remained silent on the defendant's side, suddenly stood up. All eyes in the courtroom turned toward him at once. Your Honors, I have new evidence to submit. His voice trembled slightly, but his gaze was unwavering. Jiang Yan snapped his head around, glaring at him. Chen, what are you doing? Sit down. Jiang Chen ignored him. He opened his briefcase and took out a thick stack of documents. This is a complete list of Jiang Group's overseas assets over the past 10 years, along with proof of share ownership in multiple offshore companies. These shares were registered under other people's names by my father to conceal true ownership. He handed the documents to the judicial officers. None of these assets have ever appeared in the company's official financial reports. My father is suspected of illegal asset transfers and large-scale tax evasion. The courtroom erupted as if a bomb had gone off. Jiang Yan's legal team froze in place. Jiang Yan himself seemed to lose all strength in an instant. Collapsing back into his chair, he pointed at Jiang Chen, lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. I looked at Jiang Chen. He was looking back at me. Amid the chaos of the courtroom, there was no challenge or pride in his eyes, only a determination that allowed no retreat. It was a resolve born of burning one's bridges. In that moment, I understood why he did it. He was not helping me. He was cutting himself off completely from that rotten family. He destroyed his father, destroyed the Jiang family, and destroyed the future that had once been laid out for him. He was telling me that he and I were the same kind of people. The trial was immediately adjourned. Jiang Yan, suspected of serious economic crimes, was taken away directly from the courtroom by tax authorities and economic investigators. His once invincible legal team scattered like a fallen empire. The case ended in a way no one could have imagined. In the end, the court ruled that the Jiang family must compensate me with 360 million yuan. At the same time, as Jiang Yan's only lawful heir, I was granted ownership of part of Jiang Group's shares. Bui Tra's case was concluded soon after. The charge of child neglect was established, but due to her severe depression and my decision to show leniency, the court issued a suspended sentence. I did not request enforcement. I truly no longer cared. The Jiang family collapsed, far more completely than I had ever imagined. I left the courthouse holding the verdict. Jiang Chen was waiting for me outside. He wore a white shirt and simple jeans, looking like a completely different person, as if all the polish of a privileged life had been stripped away. Why? I asked. For no particular reason, he said, looking at the distant sky. It just felt like the right thing to do. And what will you do next? I don't know. He smiled, lighter than I had ever seen him. The world is big. There's always somewhere to go. Then he looked at me seriously. I'm sorry. It was an apology 18 years too late. But this time, I knew it was sincere. I didn't say it was okay. Some wounds can never truly be forgiven. But I also didn't say I hated him. He had chosen his own way to pay the price. I simply nodded and turned away. From that moment on, we owed each other nothing. When the compensation was transferred into my account, the first thing I did was buy my adoptive parents a high-end apartment with a garden in the most expensive part of the city. After that, I established the Tafan Children's Protection Fund, named after my adoptive mother, Lu Tafan. I donated half of the compensation to the fund. The fund provides legal and psychological support to abandoned, trafficked, and traumatized children. In my previous life, I had entered the legal battlefield for money and reputation. In this life, I wanted to do something different. My assistant stared at the long string of numbers in the fund's account and clicked her tongue. You're the #1 female tycoon in City A now. How does it feel? I was focused on a missing children case file, eyes never leaving the screen. Feel? I replied calmly. Cases are many, people are few. Starting tomorrow, you're working overtime with me. Life finally seemed to return to its proper course. My adoptive parents moved into their new home, spending their days tending flowers, growing vegetables, and raising a golden retriever. They were living the retirement they had always dreamed of. Work at the fund was exhausting, but every time a child was reunited with their family, the happiness I felt was something no amount of money could buy. I retook the bar exam and became the fund's chief legal advisor. Every day, I was either in court or on the way there, busy, but fulfilled. I once thought the Jiang family would vanish completely from my life. Until one day, I received a call from the detention center. It was Bui Tra. Her voice was weaker than before, like a lamp flickering in the wind. Naeem, can I see you one last time? In the visitation room, separated by thick glass, I saw her again. She wore inmate clothing, her hair more than half gray, her face so aged that the elegant woman she once was could barely be recognized. I don't have much time left, she said calmly. Late-stage cancer, the same illness that had taken Li Qian. I felt nothing. Cause and effect had come full circle. Zhang Yan was sentenced to 20 years. Jiang Group is bankrupt. Zhang Chen left the country. There's no contact anymore. She spoke as if reading her own final account. The family was gone. She looked up at me, tears falling from clouded eyes. Naeem, I know I never deserved to be your mother. I made too many mistakes in this life. If there is another life, I will hold you tight and never let go. The phone slipped from her hand. She collapsed, her body convulsing, and never stood up again. I watched silently until the staff rushed in and drew the curtain closed. I didn't cry, I didn't smile. Inside me was only emptiness. Walking out of the detention center under the harsh sunlight, I remembered the night in my previous life when I had worked myself to exhaustion in an office. My final thought back then had been that if I could start over, I would never become a lawyer again. It was too tiring. Yet fate had brought me back to this path anyway. Perhaps this was my destiny, to use the weapon I knew best to protect what mattered most. Years later, the Tafan Children's Protection Fund became one of the most influential charities in the country. Working with the police, using advanced facial recognition and DNA matching, we helped hundreds of missing children reunite with their families. The media called me the Golden Guardian. My adoptive parents remained healthy. Their greatest joy each day was watching the news about me and boasting to the neighbors. See, that's my daughter. On New Year's Eve, our family gathered around a steaming hot pot. My adoptive father, slightly tipsy on fruit wine, insisted I sit beside him while he recounted old cases from his days as a detective. My adoptive mother scolded him for exaggerating while constantly adding food to my bowl. Eat more, you're all bones. The golden retriever rubbed against my legs, tail wagging. On TV, the countdown began. 10, 9, 8. I looked at the warm, ordinary scene before me, my eyes suddenly stinging. 3, 2, 1. Fireworks burst across the night sky. The new year had arrived. My phone vibrated. A New Year's message from an unfamiliar international number, no signature. Just one word, peace. I smiled, slipped the phone into my pocket, and raised my glass. Mom, Dad, Happy New Year. They raised theirs too, smiling brightly. Happy New Year. The clink of glasses rang clear, blending with the fireworks outside. I took a sip of sweet juice. In my previous life, I was a legend in the legal world, winning countless cases but losing my health. In this life, I brought down a powerful family, reclaimed justice, and reclaimed my own life. I finally understood that the most beautiful verdict is not handed down by a court, but by life itself. It tells you what is truly worth protecting for a lifetime: justice, kindness, and the warmth of home. The story ends here, but the night is far from over. Join us again, where new secrets and passions await.